Hello, this is James Halsey from Fundamentals of Web Design, and I am doing my Web Technologies deep dive on Bootstrap 4. What is Bootstrap? Bootstrap was made to create mobile apps much easier for both the developer and the user. The goal was to reduce the amount of CSS code. This way, more time can be used to design rather than figuring out complicated CSS. The best part? It's free and open source, so it means anyone can use it or learn it. Why do we want to use Bootstrap at all? As mentioned earlier, it is a great tool for designing web pages for mobile. It's very responsive and easy to use. It is compatible with all popular browsers. So how and where do we even use Bootstrap? So there are two primary ways to run and use Bootstrap 4. The first is to use a content delivery network, often shortened to a CDN. This has the advantage of speed. The reason it's faster is in its application of cache. The Bootstrap code is saved on the computer in its cache. For those who don't know, this essentially only makes the Bootstrap code run once if it's seen and stored, rather than downloading it and running it individually every time. The other way to run Bootstrap 4 is pre-processed Bootstrap CSS and HTML files. While CDNs come with speed, pre-processed files come with the advantage that you can run them offline. So if you expect to run any of it offline, I would highly recommend using these pre-processed Bootstrap CSS and HTML files. So where do we get Bootstrap? So there are plenty of ways to get it, but the easiest would probably be to download it from getbootstrap.com for ease of access. And while there are multiple ways to use it, CSS and JavaScript download would be the most appropriate for this class. Other options include Bootstrap CDN and packet managers. The basics. There are a few things required with starting out on a template. While Bootstrap is easily downloadable, you will have to download an additional two files. The first is jQuery, and the second is Popper. They can be found in the downloaded at the links below. You will then need a starter document or template that can be seen on the right. You can see in the code that Popper is being used, and it grabs from jQuery as well. This code is like any other HTML file we start out with, but a few extra steps. Browser style. What is browser style? It is the display of paragraphs, elements, and others on a web page. Going back to the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned it being easy to use. That's because Bootstrap code falls in between custom code that is all original and made from you and set browser. This means Bootstrap has the ability to make regular paragraphs and basic browser elements look much better, as they will grab from the bootstrapped aspect. Reboot. What is reboot? A series of reset commands on Bootstrap. The goal is to make styles look much more consistent across all browsers and how they display. With this, it's important to note that while we are used to using px or pixels, Bootstrap uses units called REM that are equivalent to 16px. Some examples of elements that can be elevated from Bootstrap 4 are including but not limited to typing. A large amount of font and design options are present. Divisions and elements. Grids are overall a much more effective way to go about things, as we will come to learn. And colors, well, it limits the actual quantity of colors. It makes up for it in the ways that you can customize these quantity of colors on the website. Typography. Changing the way your fonts display and what colors you use is a very underlooked part of web page design. As mentioned on the last slide, 16px are equivalent to about 1 REM. So when I say the same general concepts apply, I am referring to the headings in Bootstrap. They function the same as HTML in the sense that heading 1 is the largest and it goes to heading 6, which is the smallest. On top of that, it also has a unique property called displays. They function similarly to headings, but stand out much more. Where I put the X is where you would put a number 1 through 4, decreasing in size as the number increases, similarly to headings. The block quote is normally an overlooked aspect that can elevate most websites. Whether it be a mission statement or review, these look good and only work better to elevate your web page. There is a group of elements that have the same command but function a little differently under Bootstrap. The small command now works to add some subtlety to the headers. It will display a lighter and smaller text next to it. The mark command adds a yellow highlight and some padding to any text it is applied to. The descriptive list command makes the initial item that is being enlisted in bold, and then it will have a bullet dash point underneath to describe the item. There are many other things you can do, but these are just a few examples. Colors. Two classes you can use for colors will be for text and the background. For text, it will be .text dash and then the color you want, and the same thing for background, .bg dash and then the color you want. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a overall smaller amount of colors in Bootstrap, and colors are also different in the name they are labeled. Rather than a near infinite amount in HTML, it has a set amount of colors and in different names than what we are used to. So for example, in the text colors, we have text muted, text primary, text success, text info, text warning, text danger, text secondary, text white, text dark, text body, and text light. And these are a range of colors, and the only one that would be easy to see is text white, but even that doesn't do what it's told. The same concepts applies to background colors, and I will not pain you through listing them off again. The grid. By far the most useful part of Bootstrap is the grid. This is due to it being relatively easy to create, while the outcome looks magnificent. It is a responsive 12-column layout that has vast options for creativity and design. So as you see, it can have just a small span of just span 1, and that can add together to look to other spans. So often people will do things such as span 4 and span 8 to kind of use them together. And there's all sorts of creativity, and it's only limited to you. So there's all sorts of things you can do. And the way these grids display are in grid classes. The first class is .col, which is used for extra small devices with an estimated screen width that is less than 576 px. Col SM is used for small devices with an estimated screen width greater than or equal to 576 px. Col MD is used for medium devices with an estimated screen width greater than or equal to 768 px. Col LG is used for large devices with an estimated screen width greater than or equal to 992 px. Col XL is used for extra large devices with an estimated screen width greater than or equal to 1200 px. These grid classes are huge for ease of access. If you remember from a previous lab, we had to do all sorts of complicated CSS to make a division stack on top of one another when the website width is shortened. Bootstrap 4 can accomplish the same objective in a singular line of code. The grid classes can really do so much more, but for the purposes of this presentation, I will only cover the fundamentals. If this genuinely intrigues you, I would very much recommend looking up a tutorial on it, the actual Bootstrap code itself, and there are free tutorials on how to master the grid. Buttons. BTN is the basic class for button, but can be customized. An example would be the size. It can be both small and large by using BTN SM or BTN LG. Color is another example with the BTN color tag. These colors function the same as earlier with different names representing different colors. Button classes will also work on anchor tags, buttons, and input fields, and they have a lot of applicability. There's plenty of options for design and unique websites with these button classes. The spinner class can even add a little floating circle, so there are plenty of options for what you can do in this class. And I would like to remind you that this is strictly a brief overview. I only covered what would be most useful for students in this class. Bootstrap has so many more options on what you can do, which include but are not limited to progress bars, drop downs, navs and nav bars, forms, inputs, filters. There's really so much more you can do, but in this brief presentation, I figured I would cover what would be most applicable to students at our current level and would work for our website designs. Here are my sources. I only used an additional 2 to the 2 we were provided. And thank you very much for watching my presentation. I hope you have a wonderful day.